lesson 4.4, which is learning the slope of a line. Now, every line that we have whenever we are graphing an equation always has a slope. It either has a positive slope where it goes up from left to right. It has a negative slope where it goes down from left to right. Remember, we always do left to right because that's how we read. It could be horizontal or vertical. Now, a horizontal slope would have a horizontal line would have a slope of 0, and a vertical would have an undefined slope. So we have a positive, a negative, a 0, and an undefined. So what we're going to do is we're going to figure out, how do I figure out the slope of a line? First of all, slope is always represented by the letter M, always. For whatever reason, it's not S, it's not L, it is M. The letter is M. So anytime you see the letter M, know they're talking about slope. Now, slope is always written as a fraction as rise over run. So that means how far the line goes up and how far the slope goes over. So a good way to remember this, because people get this confused. They go, oh, run over rise. No, rise over run. Think about it. In the morning, whenever you wake up, can you run before you rise? If you try to run in your bed, it is not going to work, okay? You have to rise before you run. So rise over run. That is our slope. Now, there's an equation that you need to memorize. So box it, star it in, do whatever it takes to memorize this equation. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Now, all these numbers right here mean is I'm going to have two ordered pairs. So there has to be a way to be a differentiating between the y's and the x's. So x1, y1, and x2, y2, those are each ordered pairs. All right, so we've got y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Now remember, an ordered pair is always written x comma y. So if you notice, the y values go on top, those are your runs, and the x values goes on bottom. Those are your, the y values are your rises, and the x values are your runs, okay? Now, a little thing about your homework tonight. Your instructions will tell you to plot each of these points, graph the line, and then tell the slope. No, do not do that. Do not do that. Instead, use the formula to find the slope. Do this, okay? Use this formula to find the slope. So m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. All right, now let's put that into practice. All right, I've written the equation at the top of each of these slides so you know exactly what you do. And I've given you points, okay? So in order to even have a line, you have to have two ordered pairs because there is no such thing as a line through one ordered pair. All right, so find the slope of the line passing through the point -3, 0, and -1, -6. So remember, an ordered pair is always x comma y. So this is going to be x1, y1, not x1, x2, x1, y1, okay? And then we're going to have x2, y2. And you say, well, how do I know what's what? Okay? First point they give you is always x1, y1. Second point they give you is always x2, y2. So let's plug it in. M equals, what number do I have for y2? 6. Make sure you're watching your signs. Minus, what number do I have for y1? 0. Okay? Now I'll plug in my x's. x2 is -1 minus -3. Okay? Do not forget about that sign. That makes this a positive. So 6 minus 0 is 6. -1 plus 3. Different signs. Subtract and take the sign of my biggest. 6 over 2. So I can reduce this and make it 3. But remember, a rise over run or your slope is always written as a fraction. So let's keep it as 3 over 1. Okay? You always want to reduce it because you don't want to have to go up 6 over 2. You want to just go up 3 over 1. It makes it a lot shorter. Right? But I do want to reduce it, but I do want to keep my answer as a fraction. Okay? So that is the slope of my line. Now, obviously both of these numbers are positive, so I'm going to have a positive slope. Now, you're not going to have to write this anywhere, but I'm just getting you to be able to recognize it. This means a positive slope. Okay, we're going to do the exact same thing for all of these examples. Okay, so -1, -3, and 5, -3. So I've got x1, y1, x2, y2. And the most common mistake that people do here is they go x1, x2, y1, y2. That is not how an ordered pair is written, so do not do that, okay? So, plug it in. M equals -3 minus -3 over 5 minus -1. I need to change these to a positive. -3 plus 3 is 0. 5 plus 1 is 6. What's 0 over 6? 0. So the slope of my line is 0. Obviously, we don't write that as a fraction because there is no fraction for 0. Okay, this we just simplify straight down to 0. Okay, so my slope is 0. That's what I was talking about whenever you have a horizontal line. Okay? Okay, let's do the next type of problem. Again, you should be getting the hint here. I'm writing this on every single example. You need to memorize it. So we've got x1, y1, x2, y2. All right, let's plug in our numbers. M equals -3 minus 1. And then I've got 1 minus -2. Okay? -3 minus 1 is -4 over, this is a positive, so 3. So I can keep it like this. Improper fractions are good. You never want to change it to a mixed number. And this will be a negative slope, okay, because one of my numbers is negative, so my line's going to fall from left to right, okay? Again, you're not going to need to write that anywhere negative. I'm just showing you so that you are able to recognize it. Okay, that means I would go down 4 and over 3, which we'll learn about all that in just next lesson. Okay, and lastly, example number 4. Okay, let's plug in these numbers. M equals, this is x1, y1, x2, y2. I'm going to have 4 minus -1 over 0 minus 0. Now, this becomes a positive, and I've got 5 over 0. There is no such thing as a fraction with 5 over 0. It is undefined. So my answer has to be undefined. It's not 0. My answer is not 0. The only time it's 0 is when there's a 0 in the numerator and there's an actual number in the bottom. Anytime you have a 0 in the denominator, your answer is always, always, always undefined. Okay? So the formula that you need to memorize is M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus y1, or I'm sorry, x2 minus x1. And remember, the slope is always represented by the letter M.